Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. All Spirits Night, a Dragon Prince Halloween fanfic. Fall had come to the kingdom, and Sarai was extremely excited. Two of her favorite celebrations happened in the fall. One was the Harvest Festival, which happened at the end of fall. The other was All Spirits Night. All Spirits Night, which her mother called the Blood Moon, was the most fun. It was the one night of the year where she got to stay up all night long and have tons of sweets. There would be bonfires, ghost stories, and costumes. And this year was going to be fun. Sarai and Ember played happily in the back of the house that Sarai's dad had built for her mom, and the cave where Ember lived with her parents. Despite the chill in the air, the two often played outside, especially when Sarai's baby sister, Taryn, was napping. The servants were busy getting everything ready. "Ember, can you believe it's my sister's first All Spirits Night?" The little dragon roared. They both loved All Spirits Night. There was always treats, bonfires, ghost stories, and a big masquerade ball at the palace. Sarai loved going to the ball. It was one of her favorite parts of All Spirits Night. As princess, she was invited to every ball. Normally, her mom would choose her costume, but this year Sarai just got to decide what she would be. She wanted to be a mermaid this year, and her mom had helped her make the costume. She was also very excited to see her three best friends, Artemis, Diana, and little Amaya. While little Amaya lived in Katolis with her parents, Artemis and Diana lived in the Silver Grove with their dads. The sisters and their dads would be staying with Sarai and her parents. They always stayed with Sarai and her parents when they visited. All four girls loved to play together and had plans to get as many sweets as they could and stay up as late as they could. Or their parents would let them. They were going to spend the night at Sarai's house, and she couldn't wait to see their costumes. They were being secretive about them. All she knew was that Artemis and Diana were having costumes that went together. Sarai smiled when she saw her dad ride up on his shadow paw, Sombra. "Hi, Dad," she said. "Hi, Princess," Callum said, getting off Sombra and scooping his daughter up in a hug. "Where were you?" "I went up to the palace to help your uncle get things ready for tonight." "There's candy, right? And jelly tarts, and moonberry surprise, and bonfires?" "Everything you love, Princess. You know your uncle would never disappoint you." Ever since the day she was born, Ezrin had loved his niece. Even with the birth of their own daughter, Princess Kesla, Sarai and Taryn still had a special place in Ezrin's heart, and his wife Apollo's. Apollo had come to live in Katolis after Sarai's parents were married 3 years before Sarai was born. She and Ezrin had become fast friends and eventually fell in love. When Apollo's older brother, Ra, hadn't bothered to respond to Ezrin's request for his sister's hand in marriage, their Aunt Jenna had agreed. Last autumn, Ezrin and Apollo were married and had welcomed their daughter almost a year later. "When can I see it?" Sarai asked excitedly. "Tonight, when we go to the palace for the ball." "I can't wait that long. I want to see them now." "You're going to have to. We won't be heading up to the palace until after dinner, and after visiting the monuments for your grandparents." Sarai knew better than to argue with her dad. She also knew that, as a big sister, she had to set a good example for little Taryn. True, Taryn wasn't even a year old yet, but that didn't mean Sarai couldn't start now. She wanted to be the best big sister to little Taryn, just like her dad was the best big brother to their Uncle Ezrin. But she had been an only child for 5 years. Sometimes it was hard for her to remember that she wasn't the center of her parents' world anymore. For 5 years, it was just the three of them. But now things were different. Now they were a family of 4. And it wasn't just their family. Luna and Moon Lily had each had a new litter of Shadowpaw kits and Moonstrider pups, respectively. One of each had been picked out for Terran. The others were going up for adoption. Sarai wished they didn't have to go, but her parents told her that they couldn't keep all of them. It had been the same when Dusk and Moonrose were born. Sarai was extremely excited when dinner was served. Once dinner was done, she and her parents would get ready for the monuments for her grandparents and then go to the festival. Sarai, Rayla said, slow down, otherwise you'll choke. But the sooner dinner's done, the sooner we can go to the festival, Sarai said. Sarai, her father said, you can't go to the festival if you make yourself sick. Sarai listened to her dad and slowed down and took smaller bites. She knew her dad was right. That didn't mean she didn't want to speed things up. She wanted to put on her costume and go to the festival. Every kid in the 5 human kingdoms and Zadia did. The festival was always fun, especially for the children. They waited all year for this night. Most of the adults did as well. There were quite a few events for them as well. Once dinner was done, Sarai was excused to get ready for the ball. I'll be there to help you as soon as I get your sister ready for the ball, Rayla told her oldest daughter. But Sarai didn't hear her. She was already in her room getting her costume on. Once Rayla had finished getting little Terran dressed in her fairy costume, she went to check on Sarai, only to find her eldest had put her costume on backwards. I think I need help, Sarai said, looking at her mother. Shaking her head and smiling, Rayla helped her daughter put her costume on right. You look so pretty, Rayla said when she was finished. Can we go now? Sarai asked excitedly. Not yet. Your dad and I still have to get into our costumes. Sarai hated the idea of waiting, but knew that she didn't have a choice. They always went to the monuments together as a family. Can I show Ember my costume? Sarai asked. Just don't get dirty and be ready to leave when your father and I call you, Rayla said. Sarai ran off to find her friend. She knew that she would see Ember at the festival, but didn't know she would be able to recognize the little dragon. Ember, Sarai called out as she approached the cave where the dragon family lived. The little dragon's head popped out of the cave. How do you like my costume? The little dragon watched as Sarai turned in a circle, showing off her costume. Then she nodded her head approvingly. Sarai, Callum called, we're leaving. Coming, Sarai called back. She turned to Ember. I'll see you at the festival. The fairgrounds just outside the palace were almost filled. Elves, humans, and dragons were everywhere in costume. Sarai wanted to run ahead, but knew that, in a crowd like this, she had to stay close to her parents. There were just too many people around. Sarai, Callum, Rayla, someone called. Even in costume as Vandius, Zuiba, and Zim, the family recognized Ezrin, his wife Apala, and their baby daughter Kessa. The family made their way towards them and were also greeted by Ophelia, Corvus, and their 7-month-old son Hero, also in costume. The moon goddess and her human lover, Ophelia said, seeing Rayla and Callum's costume. I like it. Are Artemis and Diana here? Sarai asked. I think I saw them with their dads over by the candy table, Corvus said. Sarai ran off to find her friends. There were lots of crown guards around, and Sarai knew the palace grounds as well as her own house. Sarai, someone called. Sarai turned and recognized her 2 friends immediately. Artemis, Diana, she called, running over to them. The sisters were dressed in almost matching outfits. "The Moon Twins," Sarai said, recounting the children's story her mother would tell her about the two sisters who lived on the moon and caused it to go from full to dark and back to full. "It was Diana's idea," Artemis said, "but Papa Tari helped us make them." "I like your mermaid costume," Diana said. "Thanks, Mommy made it for me," Sarai said. The girls had fallen asleep on the carriage ride home. The festival and ball had been fun, and the girls had eaten tons of sweets. Their parents were surprised that the girls had fallen asleep with the amount of sweets they had consumed, but ultimately blamed it on a sugar crash. When the carriage stopped behind the house, Callum, Atari, and Ryan picked up their daughters and carried them into the house. Not far away, Pariah and Sunfire were entering their cave, with Ember asleep on her dad's back. All Spirits Night had been a big success, and the girls would sleep late the next day. But that was all right. There never was school the day after All Spirits Night, and even if there was, Artemis was the only one in school. The girls could sleep in tomorrow and spend the day playing before Artemis and Diana returned to the Silver Grove with their dads. Okay, before I sign off, I would just like to say one thing, and that is if any of you have a fanfic or short story you would like me to do a reading on, please send them to my Tumblr account, Facebook page, or Facebook group. Few things that I would like you to keep in mind, though. First off, please be sure to include your name and the name of the author. Second, please try to keep them short. Third, please keep them clean and appropriate. Fourth, if it's a holiday fanfic or short story, please submit 2 months before the holiday and be sure to include the name and date of the holiday. And finally, please be honest. Okay, please like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, thank you for watching, and have a very happy and safe Halloween.